Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Paul's Southern Victory Garden. In my last episode I mentioned that I'm going to walk you through what it takes to revive an old raised bed. I've got that old raised bed over on the side garden that has that tarp over it. It's been there for a couple of years now, so everything underneath it, probably with the exception of the Florida Bentony, is going to be pretty much dead. So today is the day we're going to pull that tarp, see what's underneath it, and I'll show you what it takes to rebuild that bed. Stay tuned. All right, the time of the big reveal underneath this tarp has come, so I'm gonna pull this tarp with you and let's take a look and see what we've got underneath here, what we've got to work with, and how we're gonna rebuild this. A little bit of a change of plans on how I plan to rebuild it, but that's okay, it works. So without further ado, let me pull the tarps and let's see what's underneath here. This is going to be the first time I've seen underneath this tarp in about 2 years. Okay, what I expected to find is really not what I found. I knew that all the wood for the sides would be deteriorated. Even the 4x4 posts, well, they're still in one piece, but they're shot. All the wood is crumbled and insect eaten. I expected all of that. You know, the one thing I did expect to find, and I'm not finding it, is a bunch of Florida Bentony. Which is kind of surprising, because usually when I pull something like this, there's always Florida Bentony underneath it. Florida Bentony loves to hide underneath that stuff. But this plastic material that I covered this bed with actually did a much better job as a kill mulch than anything I've used previously. Sorry about the jiggle, I'm trying to adjust. So now I know what I have to work with. It's not in as bad a shape as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to pull all this stuff out and throw it off to the side. These are just old 1x6s that have been here forever, that I built with 4x4 corners. As you can see, the 4x4 corners actually held up pretty well. I don't think I'd use them again, but they did their job. And then I had some cinder block along the back side here that I used to brace up the wood with when it started to deteriorate. There's some Florida Bentony. It never disappoints. I knew I'd find some in here somewhere. It loves to attach itself to the wood like this. So I know I'm going to find some of that. I've got to rake all of this out. I'm going to pull these cinder blocks, and then to reconstruct it, I was going to go back with 4x4 corners and 2x6s. But I ran across a deal for some blocks that I like to use, these corner blocks. I managed to get 20 of them for $15. They're normally about $4 a piece. So I'm going to go back with those for the corner blocks. 2 2x6s stacked on top of each other. So the bed will be 12 inches high. It'll be 4 feet wide. It'll be 8 feet long. It will match the existing bed next to it. So that's a good thing. They'll at least look symmetrical. And then with the additional blocks that I've got, I'm only going to use 8 of them. So that still leaves me 12. That leaves me enough to build some more beds, which I plan to expand my garden this year anyway. So let me get this bed raked out, get these cinder blocks out of here, and let's take a look with what we got to work with. Okay, well, I've got a couple things going for me here. Number one, apparently when I built this bed originally years ago, I had put down a weed barrier, that fabric weed barrier underneath it. So that's kind of prevented a lot of the betony and other weeds from coming up through it. And then keeping the kill tarp on it for as long as I did also helped out quite a bit. The soil, because it's been covered and almost airtight for the last 2 years, the soil is undoubtedly pretty dead. However, I can use that as a base. As I build up this bed around it, I will use that as a base, so I won't have to use nearly as much topsoil as I was originally planning to have to use. I was thinking that this thing was going to be riddled with betony and still having some weeds. It's amazing the environment that weeds can grow in. You can deprive them of sunlight and water and somehow they still find a way to thrive. Life finds a way, ultimately. But all in all, this bed is in great shape. I've just got to rebuild the sides on it, put a layer of topsoil on it, and it will be ready to go. All for the fall garden. I'm not sure what I plan to put in this particular bed or the bed next to it, but I do have my fall garden planned, and I'll go over that in detail later in another video and let you see what I plan to put in the ground there. People are already talking about their fall gardens on the Facebook groups I belong to, and we're not even fully into summer yet. It's just the 1st of June. I've already got my fall garden planned, what I plan to grow. A lot of greens and things like that, salads and rutabagas. Like I said, I'll go into detail that on another video. In the meantime, I'm going to start placing these blocks and getting some measurements and possibly taking a run down to the hardware store and getting some 2x6s. I use pressure treated 2x6s, 4 foot on the ends and 8 foot on the sides. That way I get a full side out of each board when I cut the ends, and the full-size ones are on the side. So let me get working on this and get it put back together, and let's see where we go. Okay, so as you can see, what I've done is taken a couple of the 8 foot 2x6s and cut them in half. The full length are right here, and all I do is slide these into these blocks. It's the simplest system I've ever seen. In the center of each of these blocks is a hole that's just big enough for a piece of 1/2 inch conduit. Down the center of the conduit, I will pound a piece of 3/8 inch rebar, reinforcing it. Normally I just use the conduit or the rebar, but I recently ran across some information that if you do both, it prevents these things from tilting out. It's not so much a problem with the small ones, but some of the larger ones that I've got, they tend to settle and move one way or the other, and the combination of the conduit and rebar down the center of it will prevent that from happening again. What I've got left to do with this bed, I've got everything mounted up in the center of here so I could lay the boards in. Now I noticed on the ends, I'm about 1.5 inches low on the side that I'm sitting on. So what I'm going to do is raise these up. I'll put like a 2x4 underneath each block and backfill it, and then level it off again. All the boards are dead level. I put a level on them last night, so I'm not worried about that. The only thing I have to do is raise up these 2 corner blocks about 1.5 inches and put some soil in underneath these boards, and the whole thing will be flat and level. And then I can smooth out all of this dirt that's in here now and then top it off with some decent soil on top, some potting soil. I did notice while I was going through this, there was a fair share of betony in here. I was surprised. I ran across more betony than I thought I would. It wasn't the healthiest betony I've run across yet, but it was there. So that tells me that although this soil is probably microbially deficient, once I level this all off to a standard level and then put a bunch of good garden soil on top of it, it will bring that microbial life back into this soil. This soil is seriously depleted, it's dry, it's dusty. It hasn't gone to sand yet, and that's a good thing. It's still got some texture to it. I think the tarp held some moisture in and prevented it from evaporating, and that's what saved this soil. I'd love to put it under a microscope and see what kind of microbial life is in there. I don't own a microscope, so that's not going to happen. But it's nice to know that this soil is revivable. I can put some good soil on top of it and it'll bring this back eventually. Now I could put some mycorrhizal inoculate in this soil, as well as some compost tea to bring the microbial life back in a faster fashion, and I might do that. In this bucket behind me, this barrel behind me, what I've got is I used to have chickens, and all of the bedding and all of the chicken poop that I cleared out of the coops went in that barrel, and then over the course of time a bunch of rain filled it up. Right now it's about half full of this dark brown rich composted chicken manure fluid. Nasty, vile smelling stuff. But what I plan to do is dilute it probably about 10 to 1, maybe as much as 25 to 1, and spread it over this soil that's in here now and see what kind of impact that has on it. I'm not worried about the nitrogen being too high on it because that barrel's been fermenting for a couple of years also. And I think it'll do wonders for this soil. It'll be an interesting experiment. I've been wanting to do something with all that liquid for a while now, and I think this will be a good experiment. This whole bed is going to be my experiment this year and see what becomes of it. So I'm going to drench it in a little bit of chicken fertilizer and some good gardening soil on top of that, and see where it takes me this fall when I plant it out with my fall garden. It's been a lot of work, not as much as I thought it would be. It came together actually fairly easy, but you know, raking all this stuff up and shoveling all this dirt is a little bit of work. Carrying all these blocks, they weigh probably 10 pounds a piece, and I've got 20 of them, so there's a couple 100 pounds. So this bed is, for all intents and purposes, just about complete. I've got some leveling to do, like I said, on this side. I've got to pin the corners with some conduit and rebar, and then go get probably a yard of garden soil and top this off and drench it with some chicken fertilizer and see where it goes this fall. I appreciate you watching, and remember, every day in the garden is a victory. Absolute victory. We'll see you next time.